beheaded Benedikta?
Wow, that is not one of my questions. So that's impressive. I didn't even think about that until you brought it up right now. But I mean, Clive had a sword.
You think Clive beheaded her? No. Really?
I mean, who else would have done it?
Okay. You think the hero just chopped her head off?
Well, because remember, like, she went, I don't know, what did they call it? Primed or whatever, where she lost all control. This thing went like supernova, however you want to describe it, call it going prime, I don't know, whatever. And so the only two that I can think of that are still left alive in the vicinity, or at least left even in the vicinity, because these are like hurricane force winds, right? Is Benedikta and Clive. So who else was around when this hurricane finally stopped?
Well, yeah.
That could have been the one that did it.
But don't you think that, I mean, so we see Sid put the pendant on Benedikta and walk away. So we know it's not Sid, and that doesn't seem like something Sid would do. I would also argue that it wouldn't be Clive either, because Clive was probably whisked away, because I doubt he was in very good shape after the Ifrit fight, right, with Benedikta. Also, if you remember back to the fight in Rosalith between Hugo Kupka and Clive, where Kupka actually accuses Clive of decimating her body or something along those lines.
Right, desecrating her body, something like that.
Desecrating, thank you. Yeah, desecrating her body.
And decimating. He did both, so,
yeah,
okay.
But he accuses Clive, and Clive's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Your master slew Benedikta Harman and defiled her body. If you choose to bear that murderer's name, then you shall answer for his crimes.
I feel like Clive didn't do it, but I didn't know, because on the game, they don't actually talk about who did it. We see her dead with her head on, and then suddenly her head is in a box to Kupka. So I looked this up online.
Well, hold on. Before you tell me, I'm going to try to take a guess here.
Okay.
So like you said, Clive has no idea. So you're probably right. I was just making up Clive because he's the only other person there that I can think
of. Like so anti-Clive character, though, to chop her head off.
So who would send Hugo Kupka, the head of his lover or whatever? It would have to be somebody that wanted to anger him so bad.
Right.
That he would rage and go after Clive and specifically the hideout, right?
Right.
So who could it possibly be? The number one suspect I would have would be Annabella.
Okay.
Or someone in her orbit.
Oh, she's doing all kinds of terrible things to people, that's for sure.
She's doing all kinds of bad stuff behind the scenes, and she's pretty manipulative, right? So this would be a way to get him to rage and go after Clive, right? Because she's obviously after him. Or it is another thing of either Ultima's lackey, the one that picked up Kupka when his hands were cut off, right?
Sleipnir.
I'll tear you limb from limb!
Peace, Hugo. The table shan't hurt you any longer.
Yeah. So it has to be like somebody trying to anger him to the point where he goes after this guy.
Right. And that's what the internet thinks as well. And that's also my assumption. So I think from what I've read and what I've also just gathered from playing the game, the assumption is that it was Sleipnir / Barnabas / Ultima. So that little trio, or the lackey's probably Sleipnir more than anything else. So that's what the internet thinks. But there is no moment in the game that actually spells that out enough for people to know. So either they wanted us to make the assumption, or they ran out of time and budget to show us how it was done.
You're right. The whole thing was trying to set him off, right? So who had a vested interest in setting off Kupka to go after Clive? Now, remember, this is before they destroyed the first hideout, right? Actually, that's what I think sent him in a rage.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So
that's what made him actually want revenge on Sid at that point. But then Sid dies without Kupka's revenge, because Kupka goes after him, which is why he destroys the hideout. And then he's mad at Clive because Clive is the new Sid. And he's like, well, if I can't kill the actual Sid, I'm going to go after you instead.
Yeah, so it has to be one of those.
I will say that because it's not spelled out very much, and there's a lot of people online who kind of wanted to know the answer to this question, I think that it's fine as it is. I think we can all kind of guess who did it. But since it is such an important plot point, because her beheading actually leads to Kupka's anger that makes him destroy the hideaway and like puts all these things in motion, because that is such a impactful moment in the story. I think it would have been better to actually visually allude to the fact that it was Sleipnir or whoever it ended up being by like even something as simple as showing Sleipnir's shadow in the background when Benedikta's corpse is laying on the ground, right? Like after Cid walks away. I think that would have been a simple solve.
And what would be the impetus behind Ultima / Barnabas's lackey doing this? Like, why would they want to send Kupka after Clive, I guess is the question.
Well, it's clear when they actually have the Kupka-Clive battle that Sleipnir was hoping for that this whole time. And in order to get Clive to that point and Kupka to that point, they kind of had to orchestrate a reason for Kupka to lose it and get all mad at him. So I don't know exactly what that reason was necessarily, but...
The more I go back and think about the game, this is just a guess, right? Remember, Ultima wanted the perfect vessel
with like all the powers
in order to cast his spell
of the icons, perhaps.
So I think it was an orchestration to try to get Kupka's power into Clive.
Right.
I think they were orchestrating this entire thing, sending him down the line of
like getting every icon power
dominance to try to get them all.
Yeah.
Right. So like a Pokemon thing.
Yeah.
So that when he finally got to Ultima, he had already collected all of these powers.
I think you're right. The problem with that I see in the game is that there's multiple times where Ultima or one of the Ultimas, whether it's a part of him or like part of his race or whatever, where they actually attempt to take the vessel early before he has collected all of the icon powers. So that's why that part's a little bit confusing. Like, wait, are you going to take the vessel now? Or are you going to wait till he's got all the powers? Which is why Ultima, the big Ultima, the real one, I guess, should be orchestrating that he takes them all, you know?
Right.
So there's a little confusion there. Anyway, that's the question I had, and I was glad to see that I was not alone and that a lot of people out there had the same question.